Welcome to the Musar Torah podcast for Parshas Vayera. Join us as we explore the weekly Parsha, uncovering valuable insights and striving to become the best versions of ourselves through Musar teachings. Two angels have come to Lot in Sodom. They tell him the city is about to be destroyed and he and his family must leave immediately. Lot goes to warn his sons-in-law, but they think he is joking. Dawn comes and the angels urge him again, as the pasuk says, "Uchamo hashachar Allah v'ya'itzu hamalachim b'Lot leimor kum kach es ishtecha ve'eshtei v'nosecha hinemtzaos pen tisafeh ba'avon ha'ir v'yismamea." With the coming of dawn, the Malachim urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." When he hesitated. Over that word, v'yismamea, he hesitated. The Torah places what is called a shalshelet. This shalshelet is a rare musical note which appears only 4 times in the entire Torah. Interestingly enough, 3 of those times are in Sefer Bereshis, and each time it marks a moment of profound inner conflict where someone is torn between 2 powerful alternatives and cannot decide which way to go. Rabbi Sacks, Zecher Levracha, describes it beautifully. It goes up and down, as if unable to move forward to the next note. The graphic notation itself looks like a streak of lightning, a zigzag movement that goes repeatedly backward and forwards. It conveys a frozen motion, the music of ambivalence. But why is it that Lot hesitates? His life is at stake. The Malachim have told him clearly, leave now or die. What is it that could possibly cause him to delay? Rabbi Sacks explains that Lot's hesitation goes to the core of his identity. Remember how this all began, when Avraham and Lot separated because their herdsmen were quarreling, and the Torah tells us, "Vayisal Lot es einav v'yar es kol kikar hayarden ki chula mashke." Lot looked up and saw the whole plain of the Jordan was well watered, so Lot chose for himself the whole plain of the Jordan. Lot chose to make his home in Sodom. However, the Torah already tells us that inhabitants were wicked and were sinning greatly against Hashem. Lot knew what he was getting into, but he went anyway. By the time we see Lot in Perek Yud Tes, Rabbi Sacks points out, he and his family have become profoundly assimilated. His daughters have married local men. The pasuk says, Lot was sitting at the gateway of the city, and the Chachamim tell us this means he had just been appointed as a judge. Lot doesn't see himself as Avraham did, as a stranger and temporary resident. He has decided to put down roots. This is where he belongs now. He has invested years in this identity. He has become, in his own mind, a Sodomite. But the Torah makes it clear that Lot's sense of belonging is an illusion. When the people of Sodom try to assault his visitors, they tell him, "This fellow here came as an alien and now he wants to play the judge." Despite all of his efforts, despite his position as a judge, they still see him as an outsider. Even his sons-in-law don't take him seriously. They think he's joking about the impending destruction. Rabbi Sacks writes, Lot's elaborate new identity is about to come crashing down about him, not only because of the impending destruction, but because he has discovered that he has not been accepted in this place. Yet despite all of this evidence that his assimilation project has failed, Lot hesitates. Why is that? Rabbi Sacks explains, he has invested too much of himself in the project, making his home among the people of the plain. To leave would mean admitting that everything he's worked for was a mistake, that all these years of trying to fit in, of compromising his identity, of distancing himself from Avraham's way of life was all for nothing. It's this unbearable tension that creates the hesitation. That is why the shalshelet appears here. Lot is frozen, unable to move forward because moving forward means confronting a truth that he cannot bear. Rabbi Sacks draws a stark contrast. The lives of Lot and Avraham exemplify for all time the contrast between ambivalence and the security that comes from knowing who one is and why. Lot tried to become someone else. What happened? His neighbors saw him as an alien. His sons-in-law thought he was a joke. Avraham lived differently. He fought a war on behalf of his neighbors. He prayed for them, but he lived apart, true to his faith, his mission, and his covenant with Hashem. What did they think of him? In next week's Parsha, the Chitim call him a prince of Hashem in our midst. Rabbi Sacks' conclusion is powerful. Non-Jews respect Jews who respect Judaism. They are embarrassed by Jews who are embarrassed by Judaism. And Rabbi Sacks makes this deeply contemporary. The shalshelet over Lot's hesitation is no mere detail of the biblical text. It is in a real sense the story of the modern Jew. Many Jews throughout history have tried to hide their identity to fit in, becoming what Rabbi Sacks calls secular moranos. But he tells us, it did not work. The more they strove to be like everyone else, the more conspicuous they were. Worse, they themselves lost much in the process, not only their Jewish heritage itself, but also the simple capacity to know and take pride in who they were. This teaching isn't just about history. It's about each of us right now. How often do we hesitate between two identities, between what we know, what we should be, and what we think others expect us to be? Maybe it's at work, where we downplay our observance. Maybe it's in social settings, where we're embarrassed to mention we keep Shabbos. Maybe it's how we present ourselves, carefully hiding our Jewish commitments. Like Lot, we tell ourselves we can have it both ways. But the shalshelet is a warning. That path leads to unbearable tension, a frozen state where we can neither move forward nor go back. Rabbi Sacks' message is clear. Never be ambivalent about who and what you are. This doesn't mean being insular. Avraham engaged with his neighbors, helped them, davened for them, but he never pretended to be something he wasn't. And because of that authenticity, he earned genuine respect. This week, notice the moments when you feel that hesitation, that shalshelet in your own life. These moments when you're torn between being true to yourself and trying to fit in by hiding who you are. When you feel that tension, remember Lot's story. Remember that trying to be someone else doesn't work. Instead, try Avraham's approach. Be authentic. Be secure in who you are. Engage with the world, but don't compromise your core identity. The shalshelet is the music of a soul in conflict. It's the sound of someone who has tried to be two people at once and discovered it cannot work. Lot's hesitation cost him everything, but we can choose Avraham's path, the security that comes from knowing who you are and living it without ambivalence. As Rabbi Sacks concludes, that equation has not changed. Non-Jews respect Jews who respect Judaism. They are embarrassed by Jews who are embarrassed by Judaism. Never be ambivalent about what and who you are. May we all merit to live with that clarity and freedom from ambivalence. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Musar Torah. Until next time, may we find ourselves the courage to be authentically ourselves. Have a good Shabbos.